Hi, everybody. Welcome to our coffee and conversation all about financial wellness with Randy Nittoli. Um, Bethany and I had the pleasure of meeting Randy over the summer at a networking happy hour event, and we just like automatically clicked with Randy right away. And when he told us what he did, we were like, we need you in our personal lives. And so we could also like use your expertise to share with the sincerely divorced community because, things with finances are scary and they can be really scary and can be feel really overwhelming when you're getting divorced. And they're one of the main reasons that stops people from actually going through with divorce. So, Randy is amazing because not only does he have an incredible background, which I will share in just a second, but just the ease that he puts you in, it just, anything financial gives me a lot of anxiety, but Randy has like a very nice way of breaking it down so that it doesn't feel so scary and so overwhelming. So, let me just go ahead and introduce Randy. I'm going to read his bio really quickly just so that you have some information about his background and why he's amazing. And then we're going to have this conversation that's going to be casual and no stress, and I can't wait. So, Randy is more than a financial advisor. He is a first responder to financial fears and futures. With empathy and expertise, he supports people through some of life's most challenging transitions, using a philosophy that wealth is more than money. To him, it's wellness, peace, and freedom. Before entering financial advising, Randy spent nearly 10 years as a U.S. diplomat and emergency management specialist, navigating high pressure situations that taught him the value of preparation and long term planning, which are skills he brings to every single client he works with. As a dad and a community member in Olney, Maryland, Randy focuses on helping busy families create clarity and confidence in their finances, especially those who feel like they're flying without a flight plan, which is how I usually feel. So I'm going to kick it over to Bethany, and she's going to kick off with some questions that we're going to ask Randy.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hillary, for, doing such a great job with that. I know you're not feeling well. And Randy, and I echo all the things that Hillary said about Randy. We appreciate him. He immediately reduces our anxiety in talking about money, but especially the concept of wealth, and that that's not just the presence of money or resources, that wealth. And I feel like this is something that really resonated with us, for especially people that are overcoming any adversity, but, in divorce in particular, that wealth, is measured in our freedom, right? Wealth is measured in our peace in a lot of ways. And at the same time, we're still rebuilding. And so in the very practical sense that wealth can, or lack of, the way we typically think about it, can be overwhelming. So, Randy, so our first question is just like for people who don't even know where to begin in attacking like the very practical, concept of, money after divorce, and rebuilding, what are the first steps that someone should take?
Yeah, so good morning, everybody. Thank you for the awesome introductions. It's always a pleasure to be here with you guys today. So I appreciate the invitation to speak and kind of looking forward to having some conversations with you. So obviously feeling overwhelmed is absolutely 100% normal. Most people sort of start and go into this process with a mix of what I like to say fear, confusion, and exhaustion, right? Because there's a lot of different aspects and a lot of things that happened that got to this point. And that exhaustion and that fear comes before you even start thinking about your finances. I was one of those as well. When I first started looking at finances, it was confusing. I didn't know where to start. I had the benefit of working with a financial advisor. And so I love now to be able to sit down and help people sort of navigate this. So the first thing I always tell people is you don't have to fix everything today, right? This is not an issue where we're going to go through and we're going to fix it right now. I like to say, if you're going to fly to Europe and you're living in small town rural America, you're not going to jump on a little puddle jumper plane and fly over to Germany, right? You're going to make stops along the way to sort of help you get to bigger and better things bigger and better airplanes. And so I like to sort of use that analogy. We use it to create a sense of direction. And that's why I sort of use the flying analogy, chart your course, navigate your future so we can get to where we're going. What I found is that the starting point isn't necessarily just something complicated. It's simply to start organizing your reality. So what I mean by that is get a clear picture of what you own, what you owe, what's flowing in and out each month. I like to start with budgets because that's sort of where we get an idea of where you sit. Think of it as turning the lights on in a dark room, right? You're not going to see anything immediately if you're trying to get to the other side, but all of a sudden you can see where you're stepping. And you need to start with that recon, if you will, of where you are and what you have to be able to figure out what the first step is. We talk about budgets for your transition period. Obviously, when you're going from married to going through divorce to post-divorce, your budget's going to change. Budgets are not like a set it and forget it thing. I was lucky enough when my husband and I were going through and adopting our son, we had to update our financial statements every year. So it got me in the habit of doing it every year to sort of take a look at what it was. And I like to do the same thing for my clients because small things can change, big things can change, and it's important to make sure that we capture those updates. And finally, as you start to go through your divorce, you get to the end of it, it's about identifying your own financial identity. So opening your own accounts, updating your loans, monitoring your credit, just sort of taking an inventory of what's yours versus shared and what you're going to move forward on. So I always say the first step to any clients that I work with is setting your goals. That's where we start, right? Where is the goal that you want to get to? How do we assess where you are right now? And then how do we help you start getting through those goals? And it's little steps. It's not a, hey, I want to get through this and next month I want to have this. There's no golden ticket to get there. Trust me, if there was, I wouldn't be here on a Saturday morning. I'd be on a beach in Aruba. So again, it's small steps, and that's what we use to help you reach your goals and help you get to the other side.
Yeah, thank you so much, Randy. What a great bite-sized approach to doing this. I think that's really one of the most important things for any of this when we're talking about rebuilding. Another theme that we see all the time is wanting to protect yourself financially, but not wanting to create more conflict during the process. So how do you recommend someone balances staying financially safe with keeping things as calm as possible? Because that detangling of lives, is sometimes so fraught with conflict.
Yeah. So I frame it as this, right? Protecting yourself and protecting your assets doesn't mean that you're acting out of fear or you're acting out of hostility, right? You sort of taken the first step to creating your own life. And so you have to make sure that your finances are following that, right? So I talked before about monitoring your credit, securing your own personal online access. It's not a declaration of war, right? It's just protecting yourself and making sure that you're establishing that new financial identity. Important piece to this, and I can't stress this enough, is to make sure that during this process, you're communicating with your attorney and you're working with your attorney. Because before you make any changes to those accounts, you want to make sure that you understand what's allowed and what's not allowed during the divorce process. Financial protection is not about taking something away from somebody else. It's making sure that you're protecting yourself and you're not intentionally harmed during the process, right? I like to say when I talk to people, 3 Ps, right? Plan, prepare, and protect. Those are the 3 things that I want to do to get you ready for your financial future. Plan, prepare, and protect, right? And that's for anybody, whether you're going through divorce, whether you're just getting started, whether you're getting ready for retirement, any of those things. And here's sort of the encouraging part is when you're taking those proactive steps for yourself, it usually reduces that conflict long term because as you're getting further in the process, you're not creating surprises, right? You can identify these things up front. Hey, here's the accounts that I've identified. Here's the assets that I've identified. So taking that calm, structured approach actually tends to create more stability for everybody that's involved. So that's what I say, right? You can absolutely protect yourself and take that stance while making sure that you're still handling the situation with integrity.
Yes, wonderful. Such a good and concise way to look at it. And so in this process of planning, protecting, many people still do have joint bank accounts or shared credit cards or even joint debt. What guidance can you give to someone that feels anxious about those shared responsibilities that still exist?
Yeah. So in a past life, I actually worked as a divorce law paralegal, right? When I was like 18, 19, fresh out of high school. So I've seen a lot of this stuff firsthand, right? Shared financial obligations are a big source of stress, right? Because there's a lot of worry, there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of what's going to happen. You know, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that. And what your spouse's decisions or your ex-spouse's decisions obviously directly affect that as well. So first thing I recommend is creating a complete list of everything that you have, right? Document it, write it down, make sure that you have a complete list of everything. The bank accounts, the credit cards, the loans, the utilities. It's going to sound really funny here, Bethany, but the Netflix subscriptions, right? Who has the Netflix subscriptions? Because you're going to not be there and then realize the Netflix went up to $35 a month or something like that, right? And that makes a big difference when you're going through your budget. Having it on paper and having it tangible is what helps make it manageable, right? When you have it written down, you can talk to your attorney, you can talk to a financial professional like me, and we can go through and help. Like I said, working with budgets, even with clients that aren't going through divorces, you'd be surprised when I start going down, well, what's your Starbucks subscription? Do you have the Panera Bread, you know, unlimited coffee subscriptions? Like, all these things add up and it's really gets out of hand quickly. So documenting it and writing it down is essential.
Yes.
Next up, make sure that any essential payments are getting made, right? If a joint bill goes unpaid and it's something that's in both of your names, it's obviously going to affect your credit. So a simple solution is just setting up those automatic payments, right? If you have a joint account, you have a joint checking account, set up automatic payments so it's coming out of that joint account, or make sure that you're working that out with your attorney as part of the process, right? Who's covering what bills and who's covering what expenses during that period. Stay in communication with your attorney before you modify or close anything, right? Like, don't go out there and start closing joint accounts like, oh, we have $100,000 in our joint checking account and I'm just going to go close it. Like, no, please don't do that, right? Because that's going to create more issues and that's going to create more problems. So again, you're not powerless, right? With structure and the right guidance, working with a financial advisor, working with your attorney, we can help you to create a plan that minimizes those risks and also helps you feel more in control as you're navigating dealing with those shared responsibilities.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And I think the reality is that, you know, people are still, I mean, people, especially if there are limited funds, you know, are making decisions about like what professionals to call in to work with, right? Because, you know, I had an attorney for maybe like 3 months and then I was like, okay, I'm going to actually kind of cut my losses on this because I don't know that we really need one. And again, it's very expensive. I'm glad that I did ultimately do that. And a lot of people, I think, are approaching the sort of divorce as a DIY kind of experience because they recognize that the legal bills can accumulate and then create an additional financial issue
Yeah.
that they don't want or that they don't need.
Well,
And so,
you sort of hit the nail on the head, and it's tough to navigate in our modern world where anybody can get on TikTok or Instagram and be this professional, right? And sort of give this advice that may not be advice that works in the specific state that you're in, right? Maryland divorce laws are very different from Virginia divorce laws are different from California divorce laws. So you want to make sure that you're capturing all that, right? And understanding, like, I tell all the clients that I work with, like, go out and do your own research, right? Come to me when we start talking about portfolios, ask questions. I met with a client the other day. I had made a recommendation to him and he says, well, why this versus this? What about this? And sat and had a great conversation because he just did his homework and went through and had those questions and stuff ready for us to go through. So yeah, it's important.
yeah. And then, you know, the second piece of this is knowing who you can trust, really, right? Because even my decision to kind of cut strings with my attorney really quickly, you know, part of it was financial, but part of it was like, I don't really know if I can trust this person to act on my behalf or like to have in my corner all the time, just because some of the things that advice she was giving with the kind of very limited view. So what guidance or how can people know that they can trust the person that they're working with, especially with their money? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, do you have any ways that you put people at ease, or just, again, if someone's in Hawaii and whatever, how do they determine, like, I can trust this person with my assets? Because that's huge.
Yeah. So I love this question because it's so important, right? And we don't live in a world now where you have to pick somebody and you have to stick with them forever. And I think that's what's fantastic about this, right? I can tell you, and it is the most cliche answer that I could possibly give, is trust your instincts. You know right away whether you are going to click and vibe with somebody, right? I still remember the first time that I met you guys at the happy hour and we were talking about ghosts in the hotel, and I hadn't said 2 words to you guys before then, but all of a sudden we started talking and we just clicked, right? Like that energy and that vibe, I don't have any other way to describe it except for it just felt right. I've had professionals, I work with estate planners, I work with CPAs. I've had professionals that I have gone and met with, had lunch, had coffee, and 5 minutes into it, I'm like, you know what? This guy just doesn't fit the vibe of what I look for. Like, I'm not comfortable with sending my clients to him because I don't know. I can't tell you a specific, like, oh, I didn't like that he went to the University of Texas or something. Sorry if there's any Texas fans out here. I'm not picking on that. But you know, right? Trust your instinct. There's so many people out there. Don't be afraid to ask questions, right? Like I feel so many people come in and I always like to share my background, share what I did. And sometimes people are just afraid to ask questions. Like, no, get to know me, right? Like my philosophy when I meet with people and they have 2 or 3-year-olds and they're starting college savings plans, I'm like, listen, I want to be here when your kid graduates high school and they're going to go off to college. And I can say, congratulations, look at what we did 16 years ago. And now how's your child set up to go to college? That's what gets me into this. I enjoy that. I want to see that. And I want to work with people. This is not a, we're going to work for 6 months and move on. Like we're talking years and years and years and years. So ask the questions that you need to have and trust your instinct, right? Like you'll know as soon as you meet somebody or as soon as you sit down and talk to people. I had contractors come to my house and as soon as they knock on the door, I'm like, I don't think this guy really knows how to fix my drywall, right? I've been in that situation and I see Joanna shaking her head, right? Because I can't quantify that, but I can qualitate, make it quality and people will understand that. So again, you deserve to have somebody that's going to explain things to you in a way that you're going to understand, right? That plain language of being able to understand what the difference is in the IRAs, what the difference is in the retirements and the college savings, who builds a plan with you, right? Not for you. I'm a fiduciary. That means I can't make any decisions on what to do with your money. I have to have your approval and you have to be part of the process. So again, whether you're looking at doing something small, doing something big, ask the questions, trust your instinct, and look for the vibe. Like that's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah, well, that's wonderful. And I think it's like some things that feel like it's rote or like it's common sense. You need to say it multiple times again, like trust your gut, because we just kind of discount it like, okay, that's what everyone says, but there really is something to it. So thank you for reinforcing that.
Yeah.
And so, and trusting your gut also is one of the challenges a person has after divorce in general, because we think, at the beginning of the relationship, right, that we've made a great choice, and that we're going to build our lives and we're going to be with this person forever. And of course, things happen over the course of a relationship that change that. But still, it's like, what is my judgment? Is my judgment as good as I thought it was? And so when the divorce is finally final and you're like, okay, that's behind me, it feels like, a clean slate, but it's also, okay, now I have to rebuild. And, I can speak very, personally on this aspect is the idea that I had to use my 401k, and it feels very dire sometimes that I had to, use such a big chunk of it to make, things work. But, what are the first kind of steps that people should do or that people should consider, I guess, when they're contemplating this? Now the divorce is behind me. Now it's me. Now it's my future. Where do I go from here?
Yeah, so I like that you use the word like rebuild and thinking about it as a reset, because that's sort of what that moment truly represents, right? It's not the end, it's the beginning, right? Now you're in the situation where you can start your next chapter, right? You've learned from all these experiences. Like there are so many things, even in this job, where it's, okay, I didn't get somebody as a client, but they had this really unique situation that I didn't know anything about until I went through and did research on it, right? It's freeing to look at it that way as, oh, now I know all these things now that I can go. So it's not an end, it's a beginning, right? How do we get into this next chapter? So again, starting point, complete any of that remaining separation of the finances, right? Getting your closed joint accounts, updating your logins, making sure that you only have access to the accounts that you're responsible for, right? This is practical, but it's also emotionally free, right? You're sort of, I'm on my own now. I can do my finances on my own. It's a huge step to the emotional freedom of moving on to that next step, right? Next thing we do, goals. It's all goals-based advice. Everything that I sit and talk with people, and people will come in and say, I want to do blah, blah, blah. And I'll say, that's fantastic, but tell me what your goals are, right? Because I always had this phrase in my prior profession of request the capability, not the asset, right? I was at the Baltimore riots in 2015, right? I think. And we were trying to move personnel and move soldiers, and everybody kept saying, we need a bus, we need a bus, we need a bus, right? So it took us 6 hours to get a bus there to move 30 soldiers. You know, it was 5 minutes away from us, 10, 15 passenger vans that could have easily transported us in 10 minutes, but everybody got so focused on, no, it has to be a bus, right? Whereas if they would have just said, I'm looking to move 30 soldiers, we could have had those vans there in 10 minutes, but it's just a matter of not looking at it like that. So I always tell people it's goals based, because that's how we get there, right? There may be 10 different ways that we can get there, but knowing what your goal is what's going to help us actually find the right path. So that's what I like to say, right? You at this point, figure out what your goals are. You're on your own. Do you want to just get an emergency savings plan set up? Do you want to start on retirement? Were there any sort of division of assets where you divided up 401ks or pension plans that now those are in your name and you have a certain amount of time to roll those over into your, there's a lot of that, right? So figuring all that out and setting up those goals is what's going to get us started, right? Take a look at your insurance, your health insurance, your autos insurance, your homeowners insurance. Life insurance is a big thing as well, right? This ensures that you're protected from any sort of unexpected setbacks while we're rebuilding, right? A lot of people overlook that life insurance aspect of it. If you are on your ex's employer's life insurance plan, you may not be on that anymore, and you may need to look at that to make sure that's updated. Updating beneficiaries. This is where I get a lot of people, right? Updating your estate plan and your beneficiaries. This is a huge part that's overlooked, but you want to make sure that your wishes are honored and your financial life and your afterlife planning reflects this new chapter, right? So again, it's a lot. I understand it's a lot. It's like I talked before about turning that light on in the room and seeing everything that's there in front of you. That's what I'm here for. I'm here to help you act as your guide and say, you know what? Yes, life insurance is important. Let's worry about that in 6 months. Right now, let's do this. Let's do this little step and this little step. And let me help you navigate through that, because this is the phase that we start your next chapter, and I help you find that path to go forward.
Yeah. And part of that path too is, like recognizing the importance of, finding the path and like having a goal. But then like sometimes, the reality is like, okay, my goal is just to figure out how to pay for my utilities this month, right? So when money feels like really tight or even unpredictable, and, I think it's easy to just say, okay, I'll do that later. Right now, I've got to like take care of, like I have diapers, and that's, the thing. But like, how can you help people kind of reframe this idea that you have to have this huge savings or whatever, that both of those things can exist, right? That like, yes, budget is tight, you are clipping coupons for groceries, and that maybe I still can work towards those goals. Like, how do people reconcile those things?
Yeah. So the truth is, savings doesn't have to be big to be meaningful, right? Like it's small, and it's those small steps that made a difference, right? I used the example before about when you're flying. You're not going to go in a little plane and try to fly to Germany. You're going to take little steps around the way, and you're going to get in a bigger plane and a bigger plane. And finally, a bigger plane is going to take you across the ocean, right? Shift the mindset from that, right? Shift from this saving large amounts to saving consistently, right? I would rather see you save $50 a month than put $25 in once a year, right? These small automatic transfers, this $10, $20, $50 a month, that's what builds the momentum, right? The goal isn't the dollar amount. Don't look at it as like, oh, I don't have a full month of expenses saved, so I'm failing. No, look at what do we need to do to get you there in a year. If we can go while you're rebuilding your budget and take that and get you to a month of emergency savings over the course of a year, that's a fantastic goal, right? That's great, right? I have no like client minimums, no income minimums or anything like that to work with anybody. I have clients who I worked with. I met them when I was doing a seminar. They have a 5-year-old son, and they said to me, hey, can you come sit down and talk with us one night? I said, absolutely. Went there, met with them, sat down. They wanted to start a 529 savings plan for their son. And they said, well, we're sorry, we only have $2,000 to put into it right now. And then we just want to do $100 a month. And I was like, what are you sorry? Like, why are you sorry? Like, that is amazing. Like, I can't tell you how many people don't have anything set up for their kids, right? Even in my own family, like I look at family members, my nieces and nephews, and I'm like, come on, guys, like you got to have something, right? Those little things will add up because again, when you're looking at it, $100 a month, $1,200 a year over 15 years, that adds up, right? And that's what you want to see. And that's what I talked about before. I want to be there and see the kids go off to college because you did these little simple things 15 years ago that build that momentum and add it up. So it's micro adjustments, right? Start with $50 a month. How do we get to 75? How do we get to 70, right? Again, I talk about these things. I can't tell you how many times I'll go and meet with people and they'll, go over budgets and they say, I don't have $75 a month to put away. And I'll say, how much are you spending on DoorDash? And they kind of look at me and they're like, what? And I'm like, how much are you spending on DoorDash? If you were to cut 1 or 2 days out of DoorDash, look at that fee that you're paying for that food delivery. I bet you'll get close to the $50 that you could be putting in your savings account, right? And again, these small changes can help create the space for savings, right? But I also remind people that at this stage where you're getting into this new, it's also self-care, right? Think of this building a safety net as your self-care, right? You're protecting the future you. It's not about hitting your number today. It's about setting yourself up for the future so that you're properly prepared, right? Consistency. Give yourself some grace, right? We're in a rebuilding season. It doesn't have to be perfect. If you need to skip a month because groceries went up or something like that, gas went up, right? There's 1,000 things that can happen that always change these things. I am a phone call away to make these changes. I always tell people, you want to get in touch with me, you're not calling a 1-800 number, pressing 5, pressing 6, leaving a voicemail message. You call my number, one of 2 people is going to answer the phone. It's either me or our branch office administrator, Shamila. One of those 2 people is going to answer the phone. It's a super easy thing to say, hey, listen, I've just had a bad month this month. Can we skip my contribution? Sure, no problem. Let's catch up next month, right? Maybe next month you get a little something extra, did something else, and you call and you're like, hey, I just want to put an extra $20 on my account. Too easy, right? Little things, focus on the consistency and focus on that self-care moving forward.
I love that, Randy. Again, it's just such positive and optimistic thinking, which is again why we knew we had to work with you when we met you at the happy hour, because that is really truly how we approach our work with Sincerely Divorced. And that kind of framing, I think, also takes distracts you from thinking, oh my gosh, what mistake am I making, or what errors am I not going to ever recover from? So is one of our final questions. What are the things that, to kind of help with continuing to not dismiss, but sort of limit that fear of like making a mistake? What are the most common mistakes that people tend to make when they are rebuilding and starting again, that they should just know?
Yeah. So divorce is one of those sort of few life changes where you're dealing with emotions and you're dealing with financial stress at the same time, right? Even in a perfectly healthy state, and I was this way 10 years ago, sitting and looking at retirement and sitting and looking at financing is anxiety producing when all my other cylinders are firing on 100%, right? So I understand how tough it is when you're in this situation where you're dealing with the emotional and the financial aspect of it, right? So a common mistake that I typically see people do is rushing the decisions because the process feels too heavy. They get into this like, well, I just want to get it over with kind of a thing, right? A lot of times I see this also where people will rush into it because they just want the divorce process to be over with, right? No, there are things out there that you are entitled to because you were married for 5, 10, 20 years. Don't give up those things, right? Because you want to make sure that you are entitled to what you're entitled to and you are grabbing it. So take that little bit of extra time to understand what the long-term implications of that can be. What is, you need to have as far as the asset agreements or the domestic relation orders that you can get from the courts. What are those things that you need to make sure that you have in place? Take a step back, right? Involve a financial advisor. I'm always happy to talk to people. I'm happy to talk to people's CPAs. I'm happy to talk to people's attorneys, right? I talk to these people all the time because I want to make sure that your money is working for you, right? That's my ultimate goal. Make sure that your money is working for you. Another thing that I see is undervaluing assets because you're only looking at that dollar amount alone, right? Two assets that look equal on paper can have very different tax consequences when you're talking about growth potential, liquidity, right? Oh, I'm going to take all of the 401k and my ex is going to have it and I'm going to get the house, right? That's a common thing that I like to see. Well, you don't take into effect what it's going to take to sell the house, what are the costs to sell the house, closing costs, the tax implications and everything of that, right? You may have been in a better position if you took half of the 401k and left him or her the house, right? So it's understanding all of those things and not rushing into it, right? This is a time to take that step back, look at it and say, okay, what am I doing here to make sure that I am set up in all these ways in the future, right? People forget about retirement benefits. They want to focus on the house. They want to focus on the assets that are in a bank account. They forget the 401ks, or they forget and don't realize that they are entitled to a portion of their retirement account through, like I said, the qualified domestic relation order, right? That's your future security. That is money that you was contributed to an account while you were married. It's worth protecting because you're entitled to that, right? And finally, the last thing I always say, right, I talked about it before with the estate documents, right? Once that is all done, update your estate documents, make sure that all that's taken care of, especially if you have kids, right? Now that you're in a situation where you may or may not have custody agreements, make sure that your estate documents are updated to reflect that, right? All of these are easy to overlook, but they are going to pay you dividends and they are going to prevent unintended outcomes in the future.
It would be helpful if I turned on my microphone. But that was wonderful. So, I mean, before we close, and no wanting to put anyone on the spot, but for the person joining us live, if there's one financial question or worry that weighs on your mind right now, would you want to share that? And there's no pressure to share because this is simply a safe space to start the question or to start the conversation. But we wanted to at least create that vibe with, if you do.
Thank you. This has been great. I really appreciate the time and the experience. I think I love all the information. It's also very overwhelming for me. And I guess I feel like my question really is literally where do I start? I don't even know what all the different letters are after people's names. I don't know. I am legally separated, but not yet divorced. And I just literally don't know, who do I talk to?
Yeah. So are you working with a family law or divorce attorney currently?
Not a single person.
Okay. And what state are you in?
New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay. Bethany and Hillary obviously have access to a lot of resources and stuff like that. I am always happy to sort of, some of the connections that I maintained with my previous career with family law. I'm always happy to help people go through and find family law attorneys or divorce attorneys and stuff. As far as your finances specifically are concerned, my sort of go-to language in situations like this is every situation is different. Every person's situation is going to be different. It costs nothing for me to jump on a phone call with you and just talk through what your situation is. But I don't want you to share any of those personal details in this forum. So what I would encourage you to do is, I think Bethany and Hillary shared my phone number, shared my email address. I'm happy to sit down if you want me to join the conversation with Bethany and Hillary as part of that as well. If they're part of your support system, I'm more than happy to do that. I do not charge people to sit down and talk with them about where they are, what their situation is, what their financial situation is, any of that kind of stuff. So they probably, meaning Bethany and Hillary, probably have great resources as far as helping from the divorce aspect of it. But as far as the protecting your finances and making sure that as you go forward, those are protected, I would be more than happy to schedule a one-on-one with you and talk through what your present situation is, and just sort of offer some guidance and some suggestions, and just sort of, keep me informed as you go through the process. As you start involving other people, I'm happy to work through that as well. So mine's easy because I don't have any little initials after my name down there. I used to put National Registry Paramedic on there, but I took that off in this profession, so I don't have any. But there's
Well,
a
as
lot,
an
right?
RN though, I'd love to. That's fantastic. I love knowing that you're a paramedic.
Yeah, so funny is I was a paramedic for 20 years, and I've been in the National Guard for 14. I got deployed to Poland for all of 2024, so I am just about at my point of being back from Poland for a year. And I decided when I got back, I was ready to do something different. I had been doing that for a while. I love helping people. I help people through some of the most difficult medical things they ever did. I'm sure you can understand that coming from your background as an RN. And I continue to sort of have that mindset as I go and talk through people now and work with them. Because it's complicated. I understand that it's complicated. I worked with a great financial advisor who I have the privilege of working with now in her office and being part of her practice for the next couple of years. And she really helped break it down. And I like to do the same thing, right? It's not complicated. It's easy enough to make it simple. And like I said, everybody's situation is different, but send me an email, give me a phone call. I'm happy to jump on a Zoom call, happy to jump on a call. Like I said, if you want Bethany or Hillary or anybody else to join, it's your phone call. So whoever else you want to have. But absolutely, I'm more than happy to just sit down, talk to you, talk medical stories and swap horror stories and stuff. Whatever helps. Like, absolutely, please reach out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I also just wanted to chime in too, like, Randy is the financial guru, but as far as like the other stuff to do with your divorce, there is a platform that we work with. It's a new platform. It's called Splitify, and it's free to sign up. And basically what it's a really good starting point for when you don't know where to start. um, because you can it's like I think it asks you like 9 questions about your situation, and it gives you the opportunity to upload any like relevant documents. And it's basically just a tool that can help you like figure out what your steps are, what your next steps are. And it's broken down into like bite-sized, like easy to navigate steps. We actually just interviewed the founder of Splitify on our Instagram. We did an Instagram live with him on Thursday. If you're curious to learn more, but because I know exactly when I went through divorce, like I felt the same way. Like it wasn't a contested divorce, so like I had hired an attorney just to give me legal advice, but like I wasn't necessarily using them for representation, and it's just so overwhelming and so confusing. I think that people automatically think that you have to hire an attorney in order to like move forward, but Splitify kind of helps you to look at it through a different lens. And and it's something I wish that would have existed when I went through it, because it's just so clean, and it's built on data. Like it's a platform that's actually built on like court cases and the laws by each state. So like I said, it's free to join, so it might be something worth looking into, just to give you a starting point. And if you need like further recommendations beyond that, like you can feel free to like email us or DM us,
Okay.
and we're happy to try to
Thank you.
connect you.
Thank you. I hope
Yeah,
you feel
of
better
course.
too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
I know my voice is a little broken, but I dropped the link in the chat too. So
Okay.
it's like you need Joanna and Randy at your side right now, friend, to manage your health your health situation. But I was just going to say, Randy, Splitify also has like a way for professionals to work to collaborate with like their clients, and so or a way for people to like incorporate their support team. It's really great technology. And again, I wish we would have had it too. So it might be something, but I wanted to just say something really briefly about like the alphabet soup after everybody's name. We've done a couple different posts. Like, so one of the alphabet soups you might see is CDFA. That's like Certified Divorce Financial Advisor. And to be honest, I feel like it's one of those bureaucratic, certificates or something that is set up, for people to pay into to say, I have this specialty in this particular area. And I'm saying that from talking to someone who does have the CDFA, they have earned it. There are lots of hoops to jump through, lots of expenses to get that. And then I know another financial advisor who is like, I don't really think I need to jump through all of those hoops, to provide really solid guidance. And again, this I think goes back to what Randy was saying about trusting your gut. There's so many other ways that you need to connect with someone beyond those like credentials after the name, because we're all we all have lived long enough to know that they give even PhDs to the lowest of the low in their class, right? So again, no shade. I'm all about higher ed, and I like to think I earned my credentials, but the reality is it may not be the end of the world, or it can be overwhelming to again think about it. And it may be after you have more clarity about the situation, right, that you're able to decide, do I really need this person with this particular expertise? So a CDFA is one that we see often, and then also like a financial accountant. And a financial or a forensic accountant, rather. The forensic accountant seems more so like if you think that there are like hidden assets, like your ex, is sitting on a bunch of money, or they haven't been honest about things, like that's what that would be used for. So yeah, but again, lots of people who are, tangentially could be helpful, but if you're not sure, you don't really want to spend money on hiring them. So anyhow, just wanted to add that, but we are going to wrap up, and I just really appreciate everyone's time. Joanna, thank you for being here. I know we've exchanged emails before, and so it's nice to see you in person. I love that wall behind you. That is
thank you.
I like the wall and the plant. I was like, I was hoping you're in a cabin in the mountains, like just enjoying the crisp fall day or something. I was here.
I know it. I feel like it looks like I'm in a boat. I'm actually my room is in the attic, in the converted attic. Okay. So that's what's going on. There's lots of knotty pine up here.
Yeah, I love it. I feel like we could have a little camp out there. So thank you for bringing us into your space and this morning. And Randy, as always, thank you so much for just bringing your light and your spirit and your kind heart into this conversation, because we all feel nurtured after we leave you, and a little less nervous about, what rebuilding really is going to mean. So thank you for your time. This is, I think, this is the first time, but we're going to do it again. And thank you for being so willing to be a resource to Joanna after the call as well. So
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Randy. We appreciate you, and I have like my own little mental to-do list for my own stuff in my mind.
Yes,
write it down. Make sure you write it down.
I know. I will. I promise.
Well, wonderful. Well, we hope everyone has a lovely day, and look forward to gathering again soon. Okay.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Bye. Bye.
All right.